I want us to begin with the sports section, which you'll find all the way behind. Senegal, they take Kenya through vital lessons. And this is where perhaps now we can rope in our panel. Just begin generally. And Douglas, I'll begin with you. First of all, where do you see, I mean, for us, for Kenya to be at AFCON, that was a very big achievement. But what lessons can we borrow from this specific season that Harambee Stars have had in Cairo, rather? What lessons can we borrow moving forward?
I think if I go back to what I've done for Kenya, basically, my preparation started in Japan when I was 19 years old. And that took a very cool 4 years investment for somebody who will not get a return from your performance. And 4 years, having put all that effort, is why I was able to win the 1987 World Champion. And then, of course, followed all these other events that I participated. So if you look at that, basically it tells you that the structural management, the sports structure that we have certain materials that must be in place. And one of them must be the facilities, and they must be up to standard. Number two, we have the athletes in plenty, all right? And then I think the academies for where youths, when are they supposed to, what is the pathway for these athletes when they are scouted, and how long are we planning, how have we planned? And then of course you look at the coaching. There's a traditional coaching, which we have really taken up for quite a long time. We have not changed a lot, because a lot of people try to say that other teams come to Kenya and steal what we have.
Right.
It's probably what they do we don't do, and what we do they don't do. So we need to look at those books and probably see what we can change.
A lot of the stars, the young stars in Harambee Stars are young. These are young people. So when you're talking about traditional coaching, does traditional coaching also equal to mentorship for the players?
First, if we let's go back. As I said, I went to Japan. I was 19 years old. So 4 years into 19 years old, I was 23 when I was winning my first world title. So what I'm saying here is that as much as we have these young people, they must be regimented into a type of a system that they must be able to perform very well. And we must also invest in that. Talent is just it's like a pest that has to be on a foundation. So when this foundation is firm, is when the talent develops. So all these things that we are fighting for, it is actually a call for a change, for us to change the way we look at things. And you know, we have mobile phones, we have all these good gadgets today. Why aren't we applying them in sports? Yeah, we need facilities. We keep on talking of facilities. We've been talking about facilities for long. We have how many tartan tracks in this country? You know, so these are the changes that are calling, and we must get into that change. And if we don't change, probably we are going to still circle at the same point, because next year is 2020.
Sarah, what did you make of the performance of the Harambee Stars? And what are the gaps you saw?
Yeah, I think first and foremost we should be very happy that we're actually in AFCON. How long has it been? 19 years or so? So there's a generation of Kenyans who are getting to see their own at a global stage. It's not just local. I mean, it's Africa-wide, it's a continental thing. So we need to be proud of that fact. We also need to look at what changes were implemented in order to get the team from where it was before to where we are now. I take it as a positive, as much as people say, okay, we only beat Tanzania, what about the others? Come on, if you're playing against Algeria, Senegal, if we won, first of all, it would have been a miracle. It would have been a World Cup for us.
But isn't that where the problem is, when we really underestimate ourselves and don't think that we are good enough to take on teams that we definitely think are better than us?
We do not, it's not about being, you know, pessimistic or underestimating ourselves.
Or setting our bar too low.
No, it's about being realistic with our facilities, with our coaching, with how we treat our players. If everything is in place, we shall see those developments one step at a time.
So everything should be in place.
Yes.
That is what we are saying before we start blaming.
Exactly.
I think a lot of excuses for bad performances. That's why we are. That's why we were where we are. A country full of athletes with very dismal performances. The athletes we're playing against, have 2 feet and 2 hands and a sound of mind. There's very little you need other than a football to kick around to be able to adapt to a certain skill level.
So are you saying that we picked the wrong talent?
No, we just don't pick anything. We just don't train. We just don't prepare for anything. Yeah. When we started preparing for AFCON, I think 8 months prior to the tournament, there are guys. I was talking to Doug earlier, and the New Zealand team that is playing the World Cup this season, the 15th World Cup this season, 35% of them, the youngest guys, started training 8 years ago. What chance do we stand?
It's almost a decade of training.
We will not get there. It's like saying, because I'm older than you, as you might catch up. There's no way. With sport, you've got to put the time. There's no shortcut about it. There's the odd miracle here, odd miracle there, but for other athletes to be developed enough, there's got to be time. So, first of all, well done Harambee Stars for playing AFCON, but the birth bar is very low. Yeah. It's very low. We can't be celebrating winning 1 match in Africa.
Well, Benjamin, I saw you shaking your head when Sarah was talking about perhaps how shocking it would have been if we beat Algeria and Senegal. I saw you shaking your head there for a minute.
Yes, because we set our bars too low.
Too low, but nevertheless,
that's how we teach the kids. You see, like if my son who's a footballer, my 19-year-old who's a footballer, is excited about beating Algeria now, what business do I have investing in his football? What business? And it took me 17 years to win 1 cup in the World Series. But that dream never left me. I remember being beaten by Fiji 70 points to 0. I was the only one in the field who bothered. I was busy there sulking. Everybody else was happy.
They were happy that at least they played against
Guess how many people in that field when we beat Fiji in the semi-final? First of all, in the World Cup, there was 1. You can guess who that was. Guess who beat Fiji in Singapore to win? It's just 1. That's what it takes. Yeah. If every kid is made hungry to want to achieve, there'll be no question about where we want to be. Do you know in New Zealand today, if New Zealand does not make the final, if they don't win the final of the World Cup, it's a very hostile situation. At home, you can't land in the airport. The noises, the ridicule, because it is a national sport. It's like Douglas coming to tell us, you know, you tried to perform well in athletics, and you came short. You only became number 7. Who will take that in Kenya?
So where do we start this? Where do we shine the spotlight? Do we start with the government? Is it the athletes? Is it the management?
Can you just start playing early? Can you just start doing things early?
But
and that is everybody else.
People argue that is happening. The only thing is there's no transition.
How comes 15-year-olds are talking about politics now and nobody's telling them it's too early?
I think but we have communities here in Kenya, such as Ruaka, where you find community centers where kids are actually playing football. These 15-year-olds are talking about they have their own leagues, their own small leagues that they themselves also fund.
How long ago did that start?
That has been happening even when I was in school. The only problem
and if they're
is the
15, 5 years from now,
but who will give you a chance?
People who have a talent in primary.
Who will give you a chance?
Yes.
Who follows through?
That is the question.
This guy had to go to Japan to win.
Yeah.
I had to give up schooling to be able to get Kenya to where it was. So there's got to be someone to make a sacrifice. But why should it be like that? It is that transition, and I hear people blaming the government. The government doesn't have legs and hands and legs to run.
But Benjamin, don't you not think at 15, the 15-year-olds are saying, if there was what you're talking about, proper adequate infrastructure, if there was mentorship, that transition, that they would even start playing as early as 10 years old if they knew there is something out of it, and guidance.
That's only part of it.
I think that's exactly what I was saying.
Yes.
That there needs to be enough facilities, infrastructure, guidance, mentorship, training, so that we can at least have a shot.
Where is it going to start? Where is it going to start?
Let her finish.
From the home and the mindset of the parents. How many parents actually value sports?
I think
you had to leave school to pursue sports.
Yeah.
Right? Many of our own children don't have that same freedom or leeway, because parents think academics. If you're interested in sports,
it's an extracurricular activity.
You know? Which is why the mindset of Kenyans needs to change. We need to treat talent just as important as we do treat academics. Until that happens, in the mindset of Kenyans, we're not going anywhere. And we'll keep getting, you know, people who run and just are lucky enough to win.
Yeah. You know, if you look at other academies, what they do, they have a pathway. A pathway is what prepares a young athlete or the young talented Kenyan in which path is going to look. And this path starts at the age of 8. So in the next 4 years, they take the Olympic cycle, which is 4 years. That develops you and tells you 8, 12, the next is 12 years, 16 years and 20 years, where you'll be. That is the pathway we need to implement from the grassroots. And then the development. Then you come and find that we win medals. These medals come with diplomas. These diplomas does not score in this country, as she said. It is only academic. So you find it is in a very weird situation whereby a gold is celebrated in this country, but as an athlete, when I retire, that diploma can't even sustain my life. I am not considered anything. So we need to have a score. Like when I'm an army officer and I decide to go to the university, what happens? If I've served 5 years, that 5 years is counted in the university as part of my education. So the same thing should happen, because even as today we speak, if I want to become a coach, probably I'll have to go to KU, do the training and then get a small certificate.
Do you know if you go
and
to
then
KU,
I become a coach.
Do you know if I go to KU, I have to do everything basic.
You have to start from scratch.
Like
you never did anything.
Yes.
After 16 years of service to the sport. So you're wondering, and when I asked about that, I was told that's how it goes.
Why? Why is
so
it,
they
why
don't
is it
incorporate your experience?
No.
It's because it's just another paper. It's not about how to develop this country. I actually went to Australia and applied to do an undergrad. They said, we can't take you. You're too overqualified for a university, for an undergrad, whatever. Course.
So based on your experience, they've thought you
they will not touch anybody who's done over 5 years in his sport for an undergrad.
And so here we have to start from scratch.
Start from scratch, get a master's, get a PhD.
This is how you stretch. You've been winning all around the world.
Well, before we move on from this conversation, perhaps Benjamin and Douglas will help me understand this quote that I'm seeing, because you physically have taken part in your respective fields. As a captain, Victor Wanyama input was imaginary. He was there physically, but spiritually gone. We saw him play also part of this match. What does that mean when you're physically there, when you're physically running, when you're physically playing, but you're spiritually gone? What does that mean?
You know, it's difficult to explain what a sportsman goes through. There's two parts of a sportsman. There is his spirit, and then there is, which is basically called the soul, and then there's the body. The body is very wary. It gets beats really, really fast. You won't be able to survive on your body's strength only. And that's why if you hear any sports talks, you'll hear mind over matter, strength of mind over your body. Because once the body is depleted, then you need that spirit to be able to take it to the next stage. Douglas has done the long runs. He'll tell you at some point, you're running, you're not even seeing the road, but you've got to finish. You can't, you're basically not seeing anything else other than the road you're running on and your perception of what the finish line is like. That's how tired the body gets. But your mind has got to be strong enough to realize there's actually a finish line there. It's not just imaginary.
Mind over matter, Douglas.
Yeah, so for this, I think number one, you know, for us in athletics is not pretty difficult like a team sport. Because team sport, you're carrying everybody. Every particular player is important. Number one, all these Oluga, I think it's Oluga, and Wanyama, they come from very different mix of teams where they play. So they have a system that they use there, which system is not adapted by our players. So first and most, for them to even mix with the team, it is very difficult. coming from Europe and then coming from Japan. Because the day-to-day training and everything that is being done, it is well professionally arranged.
It's calculated.
It is calculated that within this month, you'll do physical fitness. You must pass physical fitness. Our teams probably don't get up to there. So when they say physical fitness, we need to understand what does it mean in physical fitness, and why should you be able to, why are you must pass that test. So in that area space, first they'll have to figure out how they will play with this other team, which is probably 90%.
Have you personally found yourself in that state where you are physically exhausted? Here you are trying to finish a marathon, but you're spiritually not there.
Yes, that happens to each player, especially when you have a flag to carry and every Kenyan is looking at you, number one. When I ran in the world championships in Rome, we discussed a lot with my coach, and he told me that the only way I can get to the Olympics would have been through the marathon, because it was a little bit easier. In a way that 10,000 was too high for me, because they had run 27 minutes. I had only 28. So we trained and focused 4 years prior that we qualify through World Championships, so that if I run between 1 and 10 or 20 or 15, I will automatically get a ticket to go to the Olympics, because Olympic was the main goal. And who knew then I would win? So when that happens, basically it changed the whole scenario. That for me, looking a year ahead, I managed to clip the event of the day. So in running, basically we'd say you train up to 38% or let's say 90 or 85% will be physical. The rest to take you through is mental, because you must do so many reps that naturally, even if you're not.
This is so interesting. So physically, there's generally how you would perhaps prepare for your matches and rugby, you know, the intense training.
Yes.
But how do you prepare then your mind? How do you exercise your mind?
That's why it's rigorous training, and that's in a sense I was telling you. There's no point you can skip. Think about it. Whenever you have a collision point in a rugby match, you're meeting weights of 3-4 times your body weight. That's a very small collision. You still have to think about the next player who you have to give the ball, or if you have to secure it, how long do you have to pass it, if you have to kick it, how far are you in the field, and you're doing all these calculations while carrying the ball, and everybody's chasing you. So there's got to be, that physical bit is just to help you take the physical beating. Other than that, then you should be, you're like a guy in a warfield with all these missiles being shot, and you're thinking on your feet and saying, hey, those guys in the studio are going to roast me tomorrow if I don't score this try.
But I do think that sports psychology also plays an important role. In Kenya, I think I only know of 2 sports psychologists, and they're the ones who actually help train the mind, and not just the individual mind, also the psyche of the entire team. So that you see if you're playing in sync, what we're going to do to strengthen ourselves at a time when we're demoralized. So it's also important to talk about, do we have enough sports psychologists?
And that's where mostly and largely we've gone wrong. Something like sport is difficult to read about sports psychology and get to know, to get into this guy's mind. When he's done 40 kilometers, he has to do just 2 to win. And his body tells him, shut down now. Now. Yeah. It's very difficult for somebody who's not been through it to tell you, this is exactly what you need to do. And that's the problem I have with our education system and how our sport is handled. Somebody hops into class and does exams, or how's a rugby football handled this way, that way, how do you get fit, this and that. And people think they're prepared. Because the guy who's transferring knowledge to you doesn't even understand what he's talking about.
That's true.
Understand? So with what we have, and I still keep wondering why we don't believe in ourselves as much to know that I've been through it enough times to know that I'm good enough. And unfortunately, like we're brought up as Miroses, you can't be that bold, you look arrogant. You know, there's somebody better than you. We'll import somebody, Mzungu. Now, to do sports law, you have to bring somebody from Spain. And you're wondering, it's the same wording.
Yeah.
I can go and draft a letter. She can do that. But somebody decides, no, I can go to Argentina and do the same. No, and that is why countries like Australia, New Zealand, if you're not in the trenches, you can't do anything for the team. You can't say, oh, I passed in class, now I'm a qualified coach. There's nothing like that. And that is why they do better than us.
All right.
Yeah. You know, if you look at, on the other hand, like for a day-to-day, if you calculate what we do, because it starts with mathematics, 40 kilometers a day, that is 280 per week, that's about over plus 1,000 kilometers a month, and you have to do it for 2 months. That is one. Now, that is a physical part, and you have to think, how am I going to achieve this? Because unless you achieve it, you're probably not even in a better position. And then, come to the mind now. So you'll have to work with the physio. You'll have to work to have a certain, some kind of a mentor person who is going to be there. If it's your coach, he has to be there 24/7. Yes. Look at you and ease the pressure of even your family back so that you're able to concentrate on this. Because training is basically a highway without junctions.
I can imagine also how expensive it is to your pocket.
Of course it is. It is.
A physiotherapist, your coach, your /mentor,
Kitting,
the psychology aspect, you have a sports lawyer, nutrition.
Exactly,
yes. All right, we have to take a quick break right now on Daybreak. When we come back, we talk about the issues, the solutions we're looking for. The question is, what is ailing the sports sector and what more can be done to restore Kenya's glory? I see a lot of your feedback coming through. Jacob Ambere Matlala says solutions, proper leaders in sports, opening of incubation centers and academics, funding and sponsoring structures. Our education model be inclusive of sport disciplines, parents, school orientation programs than books. All right, that's just one. We'll read a lot of them when we come back. And we're still waiting for Fred Muteti, who's the chairperson sports.
And how can Kenya be known just more than running? How can we diversify our sports to rugby, swimming, tennis, etc.? How can we level our playing ground? Because according to the KPMG Sports Business 2016 report, it shows that globally, the global market for the sports industry is 600 to 700 billion US dollars. That's 60 to about 70 trillion Kenyan shillings. Where is Kenya's bite in that? We'll be right back.